This has never happened before. Are the Ukrainian armed forces striking? The Oreshnik complex is smoldering before our eyes. Russia is in panic. Belarus is burning with vengeance for its ally. Meanwhile, tension has exploded at the front. Everything is breaking down by the minute. The Ukrainian armed forces are doing the impossible. The enemy is losing control, and the situation is unfolding right now. Pokrovsk, Kharkiv region, Donbas, everything on the front is boiling over. And the world is watching, holding its breath. What is happening is astonishing, and the enemy is trapped by its own defeats. All the details right now. You are watching Ukraine Today. I'm Solomia Dolik with you, and these are the latest events. A shocking piece of news from the front of special operations. Ukrainian special services have eliminated the Russian Oreshnik complex in Kapustin Yar. This was reported by the head of the security service of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy. The operation was carried out earlier, but only now can it be officially confirmed. Ukraine has once again shown that our special services are working proactively.
As for the Oreshnik, they had the capability for 3 shots. You know, that's a shared secret, right, Alexei Vasilovich?
By the way, until now we have never mentioned this, but briefly, in a laconic way, we can say that one of the 3 Oreshniks was successfully
eliminated
on their territory at Kapustin Yar, thanks to the efforts of the Main Intelligence Directorate, Security Service of Ukraine, and Foreign Intelligence Service.
President Volodymyr Zelenskyy emphasized that, in total, Russia has only 3 shots left from this system. One of them has already been used. And he warned that the Russians are planning to deploy the Oreshnik in Belarus with a range of about 5,000 kilometers. Europeans should be on alert.
We see the maps. They want to deploy the Oreshnik in Belarus. Yes, we understand. Their range is approximately 5,500 kilometers. And there is a dead zone with a radius of 700 kilometers. So Europeans, especially Eastern Europe, need to pay attention to this. In the MAU, for us, the Baltic Training Ground, and everyone needs to pay attention to these things.
This is a real blow to the aggressor's plans. Ukrainian special services are showing that nothing goes unnoticed, and our state is capable of neutralizing threats even at the stage of their emergence. While our special services are eliminating threats at the strategic level, the Russians continue to fruitlessly seek successes at the front. And now their attention is focused on Pokrovsk. President Zelenskyy stated that the Russian Federation understands they are losing Kupyansk, so they will fight for Pokrovsk.
Yes, Dobrobilya is absolutely clear. Zaporizhia, it's clear they will fight for this. And to make as much noise as possible, Putin says he will go to Pokrovsk. Yes, by all means, if he comes to Pokrovsk. Everyone will applaud, but we know how it will all end.
But history repeats itself. The head of the SBU, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, reminded us that the Russians first announced their imminent capture of Pokrovsk over a year ago. During this time, they have advanced only 7 kilometers and lost tens of thousands of people. The price of their so-called achievements is enormous.
The Russians first declared that they would soon take Pokrovsk about a year and 3 months ago. During this time, they have advanced 7 kilometers and lost tens of thousands killed.
Ukraine is holding the line, and the enemy continues to suffer defeats. Pokrovsk is another front where the courage of our defenders stops the aggressor. Step by step. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces continue their advance in Donbas. In the Dobropilya direction, our defenders have advanced between 200 and 550 meters, liberating our native land from the occupier. This was reported by the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrsky, on Telegram. The Dobropilya operation continues. During the fighting, our troops have liberated nearly 187 square kilometers of territory and eliminated threats from Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups. Another 247 square kilometers. Syrsky also stated that Russian propaganda claims about the alleged encirclement of Ukrainian forces in Pokrovsk and Kupyansk do not correspond to reality. Russian propaganda is lying once again. The enemy is hiding in urban areas, but our soldiers are detecting and eliminating them step by step. While Ukrainian defenders hold the line in Pokrovsk and the enemy suffers defeats, Ukraine continues to strike at the aggressor's strategic targets. Ukraine's Special Operations Forces, in cooperation with the resistance movement in Russia, Black Spark, carried out a special operation that disabled two critically important elements of the Russian air defense system, complexes worth hundreds of millions of dollars. In the Rostov region, a Buk M3 surface-to-air missile system and a Nebo-U early warning radar station were turned into scrap metal. The Buk M3 is capable of hitting targets at a distance of up to 80 kilometers, while the Nebo-U can detect fighter jets at a range of up to 400 kilometers. Both systems posed a serious threat to the operations of Ukrainian aviation in the frontline zone and interfered with our deep strike attacks. But now these systems no longer pose a threat. Moscow is already so furious that it is throwing fake news into the space one after another. On propaganda broadcasts, there is panic and made-up stories about the capture of Kupyansk, which don't even exist on the map. Because the front is a failure. Ukrainian forces are holding strong and the enemy is suffering losses. And the truth is too painful for the Kremlin. So instead of facts, there are fabrications. Instead of victories, there are screams and lies. And the best proof is that Russia no longer even controls its own reality. More on all this coming up.
Propaganda in Russia has reached such a level that the television once again becomes the main source of truth and energy. When, for decades, instead of lessons, they broadcast Solovyov, Skabayeva and Putin, the result is entirely predictable. Propagandist Solovyov suggests returning to medieval
of punishment. For example, if someone commits an offense, you could on a couple of occasions have them flogged in public, right in the town square where everyone can witness it. This public act of punishment would quickly prove to be very effective, as it would serve as a clear warning to others about the consequences of such actions, and it will immediately be very beneficial for maintaining order in the community.
so as not to wait for an official investigation or a court decision, just bring back executions. What's strange is that Solovyov somehow doesn't realize that the same fate could befall him as well.
And when some scumbag goes to commit a terrorist act, don't wait, as in the case of Crocus City, for years while all the procedures are carried out and then the trial. And on the third day, hang them so their bodies dangle instead of debating, as always, oh, the death penalty, how could we possibly do that? It's actually very simple to do.
But even that is unlikely to cure those who have been saturated with propaganda, the Russian population, because Putin's Kremlin aides keep adding fuel to the fire.
In previous years, we never expected such large-scale lying at the highest level. In other words, they lie.
I mean, I could never have imagined before, of course, that Europe would speak with one voice regarding Russia and in an extremely hostile, extremely negative way toward our country.
The territory where the Russian world has triumphed over reason once again, just like in the distant 90s, people are charging water from the television. Now, though, it's not for the sake of health, but in the name of fighting an external enemy. A prankster from Belarus, Vladislav Bokan, organized a new stunt in schools in the occupied Luhansk region of Ukraine.
The aim of the masterclass is to strengthen patriotism, to increase
on behalf of the regional authorities, stating that it was necessary to hold it in schools. Patriotic master classes on making a supposedly scientific device for protection against radiation.
Attention! The physics teacher is conducting a master class on making some kind of innovative device.
The device Bokan-1, invented by Bokan Ivantsov, looks like a glass jar filled with water wrapped in foil. It needed to be placed in front of a turned-on TV screen for half an hour.
I'm charging it. You just need to fill this water with positive energies.
According to legend, the device was developed by a young, talented scientist from the Skolkovo Institute.
Thus, the resulting water product can be used as an agent for the initial removal of radioactive elements in case of radioactive contamination.
Inspired by Alan Chumak, the women gladly and without embarrassment completed the task and sent photo reports.
You are released. Many felt that suddenly it became easier to breathe. Some people's heads stopped hurting. Some felt something flowing down their legs. Somewhere their legs and hands became warm. That's normal.
The purpose of the campaign was to debunk the myth of the great Soviet education and science, explained Bokan. By the way, the name Bokan gave to his fictional device is not accidental. Oleksandr Ivansov is a participant in the Ukrainian resistance after the occupation of Luhansk. Later, he became a soldier in the armed forces of Ukraine and took part in the defense of Azovstal. These workshops were held in his hometown.
You have an eclipse there. You have an entity sitting there in the guise of a little gnome.
This is not the first time the prankster has organized such actions. In occupied Crimea, teachers were making bells out of foil. And the prankster, Bohan, giving such a task, referred to wisdom. The head of the Russian Orthodox Church said that the bell is the best means against drones.
They practically started mass-producing bells against drones called ACOP-25. Today,
We will have a masterclass together on making the ACOB-25 device. This is an acoustic bell-shaped defensive device, model 2025. The inspiration for the project came from a presentation on Artemy Vladimirov's theory, in which he highlighted the bell chime as the best against drones.
And of course, the unmatched classic from Bokan. Today together we made the helmet of the homeland. Making the helmet is not only useful, it's an engaging activity, but also a necessity for protection. Such a helmet can protect you from external threats. May the helmet you make with your own hands become a means of protection against the external enemies of our beautiful country. Thanks to his assignments in Voronezh schools, teachers made helmets of the homeland out of foil so that NATO, using satellites, would not be able to irradiate the Russian population with electromagnetic pulses. Making foil hats is not only an interesting and creative activity, but also an important patriotic act, symbolizing the readiness to defend one's homeland from external threats. Let our hat become a symbol of unity and resilience in the face of external challenges. It's the year 2025. Teachers are making hats because everyone is making them. This campaign clearly showed how far Russian education has fallen in 30 years. How frightened and conditioned teachers in the occupation are that they are ready to silently, without question, carry out any ridiculous order. If they're told to put underwear on their heads, they'll do it. Teachers who live under constant pressure have been turned into actual bio-robots or into transmitters of madness. How it is.
Russia is the only country in the world that can actually turn the USA into radioactive ash.
Russian propaganda works like long-term hypnosis. It erases critical thinking, instills both fear and pride at the same time.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
While the occupiers are unsuccessfully trying to attack, the armed forces of Ukraine are moving into the offensive. Our defenders are accomplishing what seemed impossible. In just one day, Ukrainian soldiers recaptured 3 settlements from the enemy. Watch the report to see exactly how the advance is happening. The Ukrainian armed forces are advancing on the enemy with strides that even the Kremlin would call 7 league steps. With giant steps. While Putin's army spends months fighting for every village, our defenders are achieving what seems impossible. In just one day, they managed to take back as many as 3 Ukrainian villages from the Russian army. We're talking about the settlement of Sukitske and 2 more villages in the Dobropilya direction, Kucherev Yar and Uyut. Thus, as of August 21st, 2025, the situation in this area has been stabilized. Control has been restored over 9 settlements, and another 9 have been cleared of enemy sabotage groups. In just the last 10 days, 1,756 enemy servicemen and 75 pieces of equipment have been destroyed here of the enemy. The occupiers also suffered huge losses while attempting to break through the Ukrainian front on the neighboring forward section. Thus, the soldiers of the 33rd Brigade repelled a massive mechanized assault in the area of Volodymyrivka, Donetsk region. During the battle, the weather conditions were poor, which did not play in the occupiers' favor. The enemy got at least 3 armored vehicles stuck in the mud, and the infantry that began to disembark from them came under fire from artillery and drones. At one point, even HIMARS joined in to repel the Russian attack. As a result of the battle, the enemy lost 3 armored vehicles destroyed, 3 drowned, and was left without most of its infantry. However, the Russian army does not give up hope of breaking through our defenses, even on some small section of the front, at any cost, even if it means hundreds or thousands of their soldiers killed.
Every day, in fact, there is news that the armed forces have locally pushed the enemy back here or liberated territory there. On all fronts, essentially, they are repelling some large-scale attacks. Enemy attacks are being repelled every day in different directions, sometimes dozens of attacks in a single day.
The fiercest fighting is where the enemy is trying to push the armed forces of Ukraine out of Pokrovsk. Enemy sabotage groups have been storming Ukrainian armed forces positions there around the clock, non-stop, for the past few days. The situation in this area for the armed forces of Ukraine remains extremely difficult. However, despite all the efforts of the enemy, our defenders courageously hold their defense. Pokrovskaya.
The Pokrovskaya defense has been holding for more than a year. And defense, well, how many thousand Russians died there? Losses of over 200,000. This is official confirmation of the loss in numbers by foreign intelligence. Second point. How much Russian equipment, how many Russian generals have even been lost in this sector in Hektanik?
The Pokrovsk direction is the main topic of conversation for Russian propaganda. But as for their so-called achievements on other sections of the front, Kremlin propaganda tries not to talk about them. It's unlikely that such footage will be shown on TV across the border. Within just a few minutes after detection, the border guards of the Guard Brigade's reconnaissance strike UAV groups destroy yet another enemy position. As a result, the occupiers lost at least 2 of their tanks, a vehicle, an antenna, electronic warfare equipment, and a significant portion of their personnel in the southern Slobozhansky direction. Despite everything, the Russians have not managed to achieve any significant victories either on the ground or in the air. The only thing the occupiers are good at is creating weapons of mass terror against civilians. A vivid example of this is the barbaric raid on the wind turbines near Kramatorsk. These are civilian critical infrastructure facilities. In this way, the Russians destroyed the 3rd wind power station in Kramatorsk. Before this, the occupiers attacked the wind turbines on October 22nd and 24th. Endless air raids on Ukrainian cities may become the Kremlin's new tactic. To this end, Russia is actively testing more and more types of its own drones. For example, UAVs with a ring wing. An unusual enemy drone was detected by a Ukrainian anti-aircraft drone. Its exact purpose has not yet been determined. However, it is assumed that it can perform both reconnaissance and strike missions. Overall, in just the past week, the enemy sent at least 1,200 drones toward Ukraine and dropped more than 1,360 glide bombs and used more than 50 missiles of various types.
Every Russian strike is an attempt to inflict as much damage as possible on ordinary life. This week, these strikes targeted residential buildings, our people, children, and civilian infrastructure. These are the main targets for the Russians. thousands of strikes with various types of weapons in just 1 week.
However, military analysts assure that Ukraine's response to Russian terror is also not far off.
Ukraine was, is and will be sooner or later. Sooner or later, Ukrainian Tomahawks will inevitably meet Russian decision-making centers.
And while the American Tomahawks are still on their way, the Security Service of Ukraine has shown off its own new acquisitions.
We are handing over this wonderful MA-VAR to the SBU, which has already achieved a number of victories.
The drone was purchased with donations from Ukrainians as part of a large-scale fundraising campaign that included domestic artists, influencers, and athletes.
This Magura Strike Marine drone is the first in the world to have destroyed aerial targets.
Thanks to just one such marine drone, the occupiers can suffer colossal losses, which the SBU promises to report in their upcoming video reports.
And how do you assess the resilience of our defenders? Share your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button under the video and stay updated on the main news together with me. There's more to come. See you in the next segment.